There's this new minister who decides that she wants to go out and meet her congregants. And she decides to go door to door. She's walking up to this house. As she's going up the sidewalk, she thinks she sees something moving behind the curtain. So she knocks. And when no one answers, she's kind of confused. So she knocks again, and that time she thought she heard someone, but no one answers. So she knocks a third time, and when no one answers, she pulls out her business card and she writes on it, Revelation chapter 30, verse 20. She pokes it in the screen door and she goes about her way. The following Sunday, she receives the collection plate and there's her business card. And underneath where she had written a Bible verse was a response. It was Genesis chapter 30, verse 10. What the minister had written on the card from Revelations said, Behold, I stand at your door and knock. And the reply from Genesis was, I heard your voice in the garden and I was afraid, for I was naked. This is the Sunday after Easter. This is the call to live into the resurrection story, to live it as our life. But what do we do when we find ourselves back in the wilderness, naked and afraid? I imagine these were some of the feelings the apostles were contending with when they witnessed the resurrection, and they still found themselves vulnerable and afraid and huddled together in these rooms trying to figure out what to do. There's this show called Naked and Afraid. And I noticed that their finale is about 12 people naked being put on a desert island for 40 days. Sound familiar? Well, when they're there, the first thing that happens is they're in a survival consciousness. And this phrase, naked and afraid, applies. But those who survive are the ones that start to become one with the nature. And whether it's inwardly or outwardly, what they begin to realize is the nakedness falls away, because the nakedness and the afraidness, the fear, those are actions of the egoic mind. And when they release that, they start to shift into a higher consciousness. Every fear is a call for love. And when we shift into that consciousness, and when we lean into this Christed one within, we begin to raise that consciousness. And we raise it by returning to love, and returning to love, and returning to love. We answer the call for love by living as the Christed one within. The Easter story begins with one witness, Mary Magdalene. And I believe she was the witness because she had eyes to see it. She had followed Jesus. She had watched the way shower, and she had emulated his practice over and over. And she was given this understanding about her own Christedness within. And so it was this Christedness that recognized the resurrection at all. So many times in our lives, we get bogged down with distractions and they can feel heavy. But it is these distractions that keep us really from being in that light of the Christed one within. And so when things get heavy, there is a great advice in this gospel of Mary Magdalene. It says, give to me what you cannot carry. This is a practice of giving to the Christed one within that is connected to the higher mind of God, to give those things over to that Christed one. And allow it to show up for you and have full sway with you so that you may truly live as the Christed one within. There's a story in the Gospel of John, chapter 21, where the apostles were in a boat and they were fishing, and they kept casting their nets and casting their nets. They weren't getting any fish. And a man shows up on the shore and he calls out to them to cast their nets on the right side of the boat. And when they do, their net is so full, they can't even bring it in. And one of the apostles looks to the shore and looks to Peter and says, "Peter, I think that's Jesus." And so Peter sits up and he realizes he was naked. And so he girts his cloak up around him and he jumps into the Sea of Galilee to meet Jesus on the shore. So many times when I am trying and really getting connected, it is because I have girt up the cloak of the unity principles around me. And I use them as a guidepost as to how to connect to the Christed one within. I remember that God is all there is and God is good. I remember that we are an essence of God and we are inherently good. We get to co-create with God, pray and meditate and affirm the Christ within. And we are called to live in thought, word, and deed this Christ within. So when we find ourselves naked and afraid, it's important to remember that it is only the egoic mind that can be naked and afraid. It is our high call to return to love and return to love. It is ours to remember to allow this Christed one within us to have full sway by giving it the things we cannot carry and removing the distractions so that we have this muscle memory of how to go to that Christed one within. And then we live as that Christed one by cloaking ourselves in the principles of unity. And we use them as guideposts to connect and connect and connect. So when you hear, "Behold, I stand at your door and knock," answer the call for love by living as the Christ within. And meet Jesus at every shore.